I've played a lot of video games, some might even say I'm pretty good at them. So I decided to try my very first Pokemon Nuzlocke, thinking, how hard could it be? I've done X, I've played Y, I've even finished Z. Pokemon games aren't known for being difficult, so obviously this wouldn't be that much of a difference. For those who don't know, here are the rules I'm going to be following for a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Leaf Green. I can only catch or use the first Pokemon I encounter in each unique area. When a Pokemon faints, it is considered dead and I can't use it ever again. No items in battle mode is set, and no overleveling past the current gym leader's ace. The rules aren't that crazy, so I thought this wouldn't be that bad. I was wrong. This is the story of how I became a professional Nuzlocker. My journey begins as most Pokemon journeys do. I name my character, name my rival, and pick my starter. I go with Bulbasaur because he was my first starter when I originally played this game at the age of 5. Now it's time for the first rival fight. Well, clearly there's some luck involved, and that's fine. I'll load up the game again, name my character, name my rival, pick my starter, and... I wasn't familiar with your game, Pokemon. I do this another 3 times. I started naming my Bulbasaur after which run it was, so I could keep track. And clearly the biggest gatekeeper to me progressing would be RNG, so I named my rival fittingly. You can guess how this one ended. It was only after my 5th run did Bulbasaur survive the onslaught of scratches coming his way, and I would finally be able to make it out of this purgatory. This is where the game would finally open up, and I'm able to catch members to my team. Evil Ruler the Rattata from Route 1, and Barbecue the Spearow from Route 22. On Route 22, there's a completely optional rival battle that I decided to still do, putting my team in harm's way for no reason. But clearly this fight would be no challenge for a professional Nuzlocker like myself. I had more crucial members to the team after this, Time Wizard the Caterpie and Jane the Weedle. Eventually I arrived to Peter City, where the game's first gym leader awaits me. Finally, a worthy opponent. Our battle will be legendary. It was really easy. 5th the Bulbasaur is super effective into this gym and also the next one, so clearly the game wouldn't be giving me difficulty anytime soon. But that's just how it is in the life of a pro gamer like myself. Games just won't challenge you like they should. I won't be going over every wild encounter since not all of them make the team. By choice. 5th is just a little crit excited. I grabbed the Magikarp in the Pokemon Center and named him Alexander because he's gonna go on to do great things for me. Mount Moon nets me Joe the Zubat, who will also matter more in the future. I make it to Cerulean City where my next rival battle awaits me. I vividly remember this fight in particular walling me when I was a child, but obviously, me in my mid-20s is gonna be much better at this game than me when I was 5. Evil Ruler reverses the food chain and knocks out my rival's Pidgeotto. I make an easy swap to 5th against Rattata where... Oh. Suddenly things have gotten a whole lot harder because not only have I lost my starter, but I've also lost my best answer into the next gym. What follows is me fighting for my life as a single Charmander threatens to sweep my team, but with enough tenacity, we make it through. The other members will have to start picking up the slack in the wake of 5th's death. Barbecue evolves into Fearow and is safely one of my strongest Pokemon. My encounter near Nugget Bridge is a Bellsprout, a good substitute going into Misty's gym. Except I forgot Bellsprout was poison type. It's okay. Professional Nuzlockers make mistakes. And luckily, this game gives me another chance. Just throw the ball, it's not that hard. At this point, I was starting to notice a pattern. When things would go wrong, my explanation would be RNG or luck. Anything except the obvious answer. Me. Not wanting to think about my shortcomings for too long, I prepared my team for the gym fight with Misty. Luckily, she only has 2 Pokemon. Evil Ruler cleanly takes out the Staryu. And with a few clean switches, Alexander clears Star Me. All in all, a pretty good showing, and more proof that I'm not as bad at this game as the recent string of events would suggest. Just at the Cerulean City, I'm able to finally catch a Bellsprout who I fittingly named Charm, because third time is the charm. I catch Teriyaki the Pidgey, who won't be doing much in the upcoming gym, so can stay in the comfort of the box for now. And from Diglett Cave, I catch Diggle the Diglett, my best answer into Lieutenant Surge's electric types, a foolproof plan. On the SS and I'm starting to realize how frequent some of these rival battles are. Regardless of how many times RNG challenges me though, Evil Ruler and Alexander are there and sweep through his team with ease. Now going into Lieutenant Surge's gym, I have a foolproof plan. I'll lead with my 1 ground type Diggle and hit Dig. At 95 base speed, Diglett is outspeeding everything except Raichu, whose only damaging move is the 40 base power quick attack, something I'm not that worried about. So unless something completely ridiculous happens, I've already won. The plan is simple and Diggle executes it perfectly. I had all of this figured out from the start. Another clean sweep from this professional. Okay, this isn't something I can't recover from. I can send out Charm, hit a Slate Powder, and clean up from there. Clearly, I'll hit the second one. Okay, I'm panicking at this point, and I see my run flashing before my eyes. Raichu proceeds to hit 5 more double teams. I don't know the math on this, I just know it's really bad now. Evil Ruler manages to land a Hyper Fang that just barely doesn't kill, which might be even worse because Surge heals his Raichu. I see we're not playing fair. Another critical hit. Charm never lands a single hit. I'm left with 3 Pokemon who are all weak to electric. Barbecue manages to hit a Pursuit that doesn't kill. Another crit. I need one more lucky hit to end this nightmare. But it doesn't end. Alexander. He was destined for great things. He carried me through Misty's gym and my rival battle. One of the most broken Pokemon in a Nuzlocke goes down. All I have left is Jane. She misses. And misses again. This is it. My run is over at the hands of a critical hit quick attack. I've been saved. The run is saved. But at what cost? I've lost every heavy hitter that I've caught, and I'm left with not even a full team of Pokemon. Jane the Beedrill, Time Wizard the Butterfree, Joe the Golbat, and Teriyaki the Pidgeotto. 4 Pokemon is all I have to my name. 4 Pokemon who are all weak to rock types, going into Rock Tunnel. Maybe this Nuzlocking thing isn't going to be as easy as I had originally thought. My job now is to rebuild my team. Surge just Thanos snapped more than half my team into the grave, and now I'm here trying to reassemble the Avengers. Pete the Sandshrew, Judge Ball the Voltorb, Milk the Mankey, and for about 5 minutes, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Then Rock Tunnel happens. Okay, that's only one. Maybe rebuilding my team was going to take a little longer than I thought. The fights kept coming as I had to face down my rival RNG in Lavender Town, now with an entirely new group of Avengers at my side. Judge Ball proves himself to be a really good answer into my rivals Pidgeotto and Gyarados, while Teriyaki can handle Execute and Kadabra. Pete comes in for the kill on Charmeleon, and my rival isn't at the point where he's giving me trouble yet. Butter the Meowth joins the team, and I now find myself at the Celadon City Gym. This is another chance for me to prove myself after the Surge of 87. Erica leads Victory Bell, and I lead Milk because she has Aerial Ace. Teriyaki handles Tangela, and I switch to Joel the Golbat to handle Vileplume. Erica was no challenge, and I was starting to feel my confidence come back. Maybe the Surge of 87 was just a fluke and everything else would be smooth sailing from here. Giovanni at the bottom of the game corner doesn't put up a fight either, and now I'm starting to rebuild my team. I catch Evil Ball from the Pokemon Tower, and immediately use the Pokeflute to catch Snorlax, who I fittingly named me. Right before Fuchsia City, I also catch V the Venonat, one of the few Pokemon who will be able to learn Psychic moves for my team. The Safari Zone lands me a female Nidoran, who I named Queen, and at this point, my roster is starting to fill out pretty nicely. I decided to do things in a weird order here. Since I'm doing a Hardcore Nuzlocke, right now I have a level cap of 43 for Koga. Unfortunately, the level cap is also the same for the 6th gym with Sabrina. And in the middle of all this, I still have to do Silph Co, so in order to ensure I don't level past the cap, I leave both gyms to do back-to-back and instead go for Silph Co first. Pete makes short work of the rocket grunts throughout the tower, and then we roll up to another rival battle. This one goes pretty similarly to the last one. Judge Ball being my only electric type mean he's earned an exclusive spot on my team for dealing with Pidgeot and Gyarados. Me the Snorlax also starts to put in work with his bulky stats and is my answer to Alakazam and Charizard. The game gives me a Lapras, which I happily take and name Poyo, one of the first water types to be added to my team. Giovanni waits for us in the Silph Co, but honestly, these fights are just getting easier at this point, and my team is solid enough that I didn't really have to worry. The back-to-back gyms are next, and I decided to start with Sabrina. Butter being my only Pokemon with Dark-type moves handled Kadabra and Mr. Mime, with Teriyaki and Judge Ball handling Venomoth. Sabrina's ace Alakazam is the only one that might put up a fight, but I have me. So, just like with my rival, he was my answer into Alakazam. Koga was next and it was straightforward. Pete led off the battle, and I was able to clean up with some well-placed side beams by V. Something strange was happening. I think I was getting better. Erica went down without much trouble, Giovanni wasn't a problem, Sabrina and Koga both fell without costing me a single Pokemon. Suddenly, the Surge fight started feeling like an outlier. Maybe I really was getting better at this. And maybe the professional Nuzlocker was finally emerging. At this point, there were just 2 gyms left, Blaine and, spoilers, Giovanni again. Both of which would end up being trivialized with my next encounter, Pi the Tentacool. Pi would prove to be one of the most valuable members of my team, and I would realize, gave me access to one of the most broken strategies in this game, Surf Spam. After this, there was actually a whole sequence in the Sevi Islands that I feel like I blocked out of my memory from when I played as a child because I remember absolutely none of this part. Really, it was filler, just like the words I'm saying right now before getting to the 8th and final gym fight against Giovanni. I'll let this fight speak for itself. Probably one of the hardest fights I've had this entire run. The game had gotten significantly easier, or maybe I was getting better. As finally turning into the professional Nuzlocker I always knew I was. Someone who could outplay the odds, recover from a devastating loss. Someone who was impatient and hit speed up during Victory Road. I didn't notice that Teriyaki had gotten burned during this battle until it was too late. And this moment was sobering because I had just gone through 4 gyms without a single loss. And to lose another Pokemon to something like speed up, safe to say I felt just a bit dumb. Aside from that, I get through Victory Road as well, and I have assembled my final team that will take me to victory. Milk the Primeape to deal with Lorelei's Ice types, me the Snorlax as my bulky Special Wall to deal with Alakazam, Poyo the Lapras to Ice Beam Lance's Dragons, Pi the Tentacool as my safe bulky Water type, and V the Venomoth to spam Psychic against Bruno and Agatha. Another foolproof plan concocted by me in about 5 minutes. Lorelei is the start, and I lead with Milk. Milk does her job against Dugong, hitting super effective karate chops. But after that I realize where I went wrong. Lorelei has both Slowbro and Jinx, 2 Pokemon that are also Psychic types, meaning that my plan of having Milk sweep her team go down the toilet. I'm forced to make some inelegant pivots, play through status effects, and watch as Poyo falls in love with Jinx repeatedly. But we still triumph, and with no deaths at this point. It wasn't clean, but it worked, and we take those. Next up is Bruno, the Fighting type Elite Four member who leads with not a Fighting type. I knew about this, so I Pi one-shot the Onyx with a Surf, and she does the same to the second. Bruno brings out his actual Fighting types, and I realize I can just keep spamming Surf. And it works. Against his Machamp I swap to V and immediately realize how much danger she's in when he misses a Rock Tomb. Luckily, Machamp decides to not click Rock Tomb again, V hits a Sleep Powder, and I'm able to hit Psychic for the win. Agatha, the Ghost-type Elite Four member, is next, and she leads with Gengar. V, unfortunately, isn't able to one-hit KO Gengar, but still takes it down pretty easily. It wouldn't be an Elite Four fight if I didn't realize another problem midway through. Agatha, the Ghost trainer, sends out Golbat, not a Ghost-type, something V probably doesn't want to get hit by. I switch to Poyo, whose Ice Beam makes short work of it, and have me Earthquake Arbok next. Agatha's second Gengar comes out, the one I forgot she had, and I resort to my tried and true tactic, having Pi hit Surf. After chipping Gengar, I switch back to V and have her Psychic Gengar and the last Haunter. Last for the Elite Four is Lance. I lead Judge Ball into Gyarados, who gets a clean one-hit KO. Once Dragonair comes out, I swap to Poyo, who lands a critical hit Ice Beam. Aerodactyl is next, who manages to hit a super effective Ancient Power and survives an Ice Beam. Lance decides to go with Hyper Beam, which Poyo is able to tank and then finishes it off with Surf. 2 Pokemon remain, and Dragonair is next. I swap out to me, assuming Snorlax has enough general bulkiness to deal with it. With enough hits, Dragonair goes down, and now it's Lance's ace, Dragonite. Snorlax here is at half health and manages to dodge the first Hyper Beam. After seeing this, most people would think, oh, Snorlax is in danger. I'm not most people. I kept Snorlax in, hit Yawn, and proceeded to watch him get obliterated when the second one hit. I'm not sure what was going through my head at that point, but clearly, it wasn't much. In Snorlax's dying Yawn, he managed to put Dragonite to sleep, which let the rest of the team finish the fight. I was now going into the final fight with one less Pokemon, something I wasn't originally planning for. 5v6. But there was no going back now. I had to live with the consequences and keep moving forward. The final fight against our rival is here. I lead with Judge Ball and it goes as expected. A couple of sparks and Pidgeot goes down. He sends out Rhydon and I swap to Poyo, who is able to secure the KO with one good Surf. Next, Executor lands on the field. I look through my team and realize I don't have an answer to this. Me, who is especially bulky, isn't here anymore. And now it's all catching up to me. The mistakes I've made, the misplays, the impatience. These aren't just mistakes that live in isolation. They carry on into the next battle, where it makes it more likely that I'll make another mistake. Every Alakazam I'd fought before had been handled by one Pokemon, and now that Pokemon was gone. Suddenly a problem I'd already solved 3 or 4 times wasn't solved anymore. I go for Ice Beam with Poyo. Luckily this one-shots and gets me to the real threat, Alakazam. Every Alakazam before this was dealt with by Snorlax, so now I would be forced to invent a new solution. I tried my tried and true Surf Spam, and it doesn't even do half. Poyo is in danger now, so I swap to V. This was a sack for the team I had to make. I sent out Judge Ball and hit Spark while he heals with Recover, negating most of the damage I just did. I decided to go for Light Screen to set up for the rest of my team, realizing Judge Ball doesn't have the damage output to deal with Alakazam. For some reason, I swapped to Milk, who doesn't have many good options into Alakazam and is also outsped. So Milk literally dies, doing nothing. I'm making more and more mistakes. Poyo comes out, survives the Psychic, then hits Confuse Ray. Luck is on my side and Alakazam hits itself, allowing Poyo to hit an Ice Beam. That doesn't knock it out. One full restore later, and another Psychic, and down goes Poyo. Another sweep. I have 2 Pokemon left against my rival's remaining 3. I resort to the only thing I know how to do, spam Surf. Full restore after full restore, the healing never stops. But eventually, Alakazam falls. 2 Pokemon left. Gyarados is next, and I swap to Judge Ball, the Gyarados Slayer. Gyarados misses a Hydro Pump, giving Judge Ball enough leeway to hit Spark and knock him out. The final Pokemon, Charizard. Judge Ball is at 2/3 HP and Tentacruel with just 22 HP left. For the first time ever, I am racking my brain thinking if there's a way out of this. Charizard always outspeeds Pi. I can't swap safely because Pi has no HP. I'm looking online and looking up damage calcs for the first time. Is it better to use Spark, or finally hit explosion. Is this the time that it finally matters? Damage calcs say that explosion never one-hit KOs, and at that point Pi gets outsped and I lose. I couldn't see a way out. I came all this way to lose at the very end. I have Judge Ball hit Spark and Charizard is paralyzed. Judge Ball goes down to a critical hit Fire Blast, and all that remains is Pi. Because of this paralysis, Pi outspeeds, and I do the one thing I know how to do best. Hit Surf. I had done it. Against all odds and coming back from an unwinnable situation, I finished my first ever Nuzlocke. I played terribly. I made mistakes. I lost Pokemon I never should have lost. And when it mattered most, I was saved by luck over and over again. At this point, I wouldn't say I was a professional Nuzlocker, but I do think I'm getting there.